Every week we do a Q&A with interesting and accomplished members of the adaptive community to find how they persevered, how they innovated, how they built communities, and how they found solutions. Welcome to the Nametags Chat Podcast. All right, welcome to the Nametags Chat Podcast. Today we're with Jasmin Bambur, who is a three-time Paralympian, competed in the World Championships four times a performer, professional handball player. He's 6'1", 185. We're going to talk about that too. Are you still 6'1", 185 sitting in a chair?
Maybe a little bit heavier, but definitely a lot shorter, about 4 feet tall. I don't get to ride roller coasters anymore because we always argue about my height, but I get taller.
Yes, thanks for joining us. This is great.
Thank you, Chris.
Hey, so you've just started the season, just had a win in Canada. So that was a NORAM, right?
Yes, sir.
And so this is ramping up toward Beijing, but you are coming off of some injuries, shoulder and elbow injuries where you just had surgery, just had some stem cell. How's that going for you?
It was, so about a month ago, I figured out that something's going on with my elbow. And it was just kind of seizing on me. I wasn't able to extend or flex all the way. And it was just excruciating pain. I wasn't sure what's going on. We did a bunch of x-rays and it happened that I had a piece of cartilage, or actually 6 of those little guys floating in my elbow, just living there forever. And they decided this year, right before the season start, to lodge themselves into a place that would just cause major problem. So I had to actually make a super quick decision, either try to, compete and train with this pain, or and which would pretty much be impossible, or do surgery. So the coaches and I kind of came to a decision. Let's just do a quick surgery and see how this will work out. But then on top of that, last April, I had a pretty bad crash and I hyperextended my shoulder, which anybody that ski race know what that means.
Yeah,
it's tough. My shoulder didn't pop out, but I had a severe labrum tear and a long bicep ligament tear, and that's going together with the elbow. So we did the surgery with the elbow, shoulder still hurting. I had to do something, so I flew to Europe and did a round of stem cells on my shoulder and elbows. Tried to just kind of speed it up. Next thing you know, everything's going great. And
can you describe, do you understand some of the science behind what happens with the stem cells? Like, why would you get a stem cell injection? What does it do?
Well, these that I got are actually my own stem cells that came from my fat cells. So the process is he drew the physician and my doctor, he got a bunch of fat cells from my stomach, which beginning of the season, there are plenty of them. And he also got a bunch of blood and created the platelets, and he filtered it out. So that's how far I know about the process. But after so injected me in the morning, and 3 days later he injected me 2 more times in the shoulder and told me to have a full workout next day. I did, 100% healed, no pain. My elbow was still weak from not doing anything for 10 days because I took it easy after the surgery. But then I spent about roughly 8 days on snow, and we were off for NORAMs in Canada, and so far so good. Brought home a gold from slalom.
Which is amazing. I mean, it's the stem cell, I've had PRP and my doctor described it as basically like filling the cracks in the sidewalk kind of thing, that it's like you can fill that crack and it's all back to normal. And I went without having any surgery, which is pretty amazing. So this is a big year for you, but we've got to step back just a little bit, because You said from the time you were little that you wanted to be an Olympian. Why did
Absolutely.
you, when did that dream happen for you?
All right, so my whole family is pretty athletic. My mom is a gymnastic coach. My dad is he was a handball player, the ski coach. But then my dad was a coach in Sarajevo Olympics, and
So in 84, at the Olympics in
84,
84.
long time ago, and I was just a little tiny kid.
This is Bill
And
Johnson for those Americans who are out there. Bill Johnson winning the downhill, and then Phil and Steve going first and second.
yep,
And slalom.
yep. So I was my mom was in I believe my mom was in Sarajevo, and somehow we were being watched by our neighbors, and they
So
were
you,
showing the whole shebang, the Olympic Games and the old former Yugoslavia and our team and all that. And I saw my dad in the stands, and I thought that was like the absolutely the greatest honor that you can, achieve in your lifetime. So I was like, well, I'm gonna be Olympian. That's it. I'm not sure how this is gonna work out, but I'm gonna be Olympian. In my case, it worked out a little bit different than what we planned. I ended up being Paralympian, but in alpine skiing, which was absolutely not the plan at all. But life is, full surprises.
so you were born in Serbia, then grew up mostly in Bosnia, then moved back to Serbia. Was your father coaching for Yugoslavia in 1984? Or who was he coaching for?
So he was coaching for Yugoslavia, but he was mostly responsible for a Bosnian team. So
Mhm.
what happened, like this kind of funny story, that my parents lived in Bosnia, and then the hospital there wasn't really up to the code, or my mom was really scared of that hospital. So we drove back to Serbia, this provincial town Zrenjanin, and she had me there. And then after the birth, a couple of months, we came back to Bosnia. Bosnia is beautiful. It's just the at the time, didn't the little town that we lived in didn't really have a hospital that that my mom thought it was good enough for us. And then I lived for about 10, 11 years until the war. We lived in Bosnia, and then when war started. But that whole time, my dad ran a big ski resort in Bosnia, and I was gearing to be a ski racer. But then when war broke out, we lost everything, and skiing was impossible.
Skiing
So
was impossible. So you went to handball as a result of skiing being
yep,
impossible? Is that how that worked?
yep. So in
You got to
Zrenjanin,
describe handball too, because handball is not a sport that a lot of Americans are super familiar with.
so handball is not that little. I always tell people, not that little jail game when you play with your hand and the ball against the wall. The handball I'm talking about, it's called team handball. It's a game of 7 players, including a goalie. You're running a back and forth, full contact, kind of mix of soccer, rugby, and basketball. Extremely difficult, extremely
It's full
athletic,
contact, really.
absolutely full contact. Yeah.
Okay.
So there's no shoulder pads, and there are no helmets. And meanwhile, you are attacking your opponent and trying to jump over him and shoot the ball with your hand to the goal. There is a goalie on that goal, trying to protect the goal from the ball. Is about size 3 soccer ball,
Like
but
a little bit smaller than a volleyball kind of thing, or like a
a little
volleyball.
bit sound that you can pretty much palm it. And anybody that plays handball, they usually have a giant hand, so because you got to grab the ball. And like I said, I'm 6'1", and that was my career at the time. At the age of 15, I made a pro first division Serbian handball team, and I thought I was set. But we had again um, political problems Serbia. And then my dad decided maybe it would be a smart thing for me to do is to spend a senior year in United States. And that's how I ended up here.
And that's, you went by yourself though, right? Not with the family?
Yeah. Yeah, I came here by myself. I was in exchange program. And this family that accepted me, they were absolutely wonderful. They live in North Carolina. They're still friends with me and my family, and they kind of took care of us through whole things that were happening to me during the time I'm in the United States. And we are still friends. I mean, it's kind of crazy. My parents were just at their Thanksgiving. So even after like 20 years, you know, it's a wonderful family from North Carolina. But and then while I was in the United States, this was right after Atlanta Olympics. So US was actually pushing kind of funding and they wanted handball to grow. So I was able to play with like the best players in the region, which worked out great.
And some of why you left as well was you were going to have to go into the military. Is that right?
Yeah, that was kind of main reason. So what was happening, the Milosevic regime and the war that just broke out in Kosovo, there was just trucking kids, young 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds. They were from mixed marriage. So my mom is Christian Orthodox, like Russians, and my dad's situation is kind of complicated because he's like a Muslim Montenegro guy that lived in Bosnia. So it's kind of like you got everything like going on, you know. And we were the kids off of these mixed marriages. We were keeping Yugoslavia together because we were, you know, until the 1990s, we really didn't know back home who's who. Religion really didn't exist and everything was perfect. But then something happened. Like I said, my country is beautiful and people are awesome, but we have war every 50 years, past 200 years. So it's kind of crazy to put it that way, but I can't explain it, but it is what it is. So because of that, we kind of had a list of people that were drafted and they were going into a war, but that wouldn't be a war. It was just a fair kind of execution of the kids that were in, you know, mixed marriage. So
this is like an ethnic cleansing, that you would just effectively be recruited into an ethnic cleansing kind of thing.
Pretty much in a legal way. That's what Milosevic was doing. And we kind of knew about this. So my dad was like, you got to go. I really wanted to go to Germany, but at the time that was impossible because we were in an economic embargo and US was just the easier option. So I ended up here.
What were the conditions like? Different, you know, the idea of the embargo, and then you show up in the US, like what's that like for you?
I don't know how to explain you that, but imagine your regular Walmart or a Target store, and you walk in and there's people working there, but 90% of lights are off and there's only 3 items in the whole store for sale. And it might be like a bread, lettuce, and staplers, just some random thing. And it's very dark, very scary. People are kind of mad, discouraged. And then you come to US and my American family, there was like, something's wrong with this kid. He just want to go shopping. I didn't even want to go shopping. I just want to go in the store and touch stuff because there was so much stuff there. It was just different, man, you know what I mean? So they would literally after school, they would drop me in the mall. I would just walk around and like, US is very different. People here smile and back home, we don't smile. If I don't know you, I'm not smiling. And even if I do smile, they think something's wrong with you. It's like, look at that guy. He just smiled at me. What's wrong with him? You know what I mean? So, and I mean, you have to understand like the wars going on, the economic embargo and all that. And then it takes a toll on your soul and just your personality. And then you come to US and you're like, wow, this is completely opposite, but it worked out fine.
What was that like for you though, coming in, like the change culturally, the change from there to then coming in the US? How well did you speak the language? How hard was it for you as a high school senior to acclimate?
Well, it was interesting. Uh, these culture shocks, they can go many different ways. The thing is, like, it's what do you make out of them? You can cry about it, you can be very unhappy, or you can just laugh constantly about uh, what's just happening to you. So, like, simple thing, like first day of school, in Serbia, when you meet somebody, or that's where I spend most of my my time. You shake hands, and if you think that that person is like important, or you really wanted to know, you kind of kiss 3 times on the cheeks, right? But you kind of lean towards it and you kind of kiss, but you don't hug people. You hug your mom, you hug your grandma, you hug somebody that's like immediate family, right? So I was in high school. I remember first day, and I'm wearing this like a bomber leather jacket, kind of shaved head, and these people like trying to introduce themselves, and like girls and boys, and they're like trying to hug me, and I'm like, back off, and then I tried to kiss him, and they were like, what are you doing, dude? You know what I mean? So I was a little bit confused, and they were like, this guy is weird, man. He will push you in and try to kiss you, dude. You know what I mean? But I mean, for instance, like I ever since I'm a little kid, I loved cars, and then when I came here, I was just shocked. Like, vehicles here are so much bigger, and for instance, like the Yugo, for most people, they know that that thing came from Serbia, and that's just a common car. It's like, it's small enough you can make a slot machine out of it. And that I thought, that was a decent vehicle. But then when I came here, I was like, wow, you can literally load this car in back of somebody's truck and drive it around. I mean, these guys are, unbelievably, huge with their roads and everything else. So it was definitely a culture shock.
That's got to be a culture shock, but I imagine the thing that kind of kept you going was the handball, right? That was the language you were really fluent in.
Yeah, well, absolutely, but I was all around the athlete, no matter what. I loved soccer, the volleyball. So when I came to US, it took me a few months to find handball, but I played American football, and I played soccer.
What was that like? So you went from playing soccer to playing American football?
Well, let me put it this way. I'm pretty well built, pretty strong, and but my English was not there, right? It should be a lot better, and so communication was impossible. But then these coaches would come and just like, can you kick this ball? I was like, yeah, let me see it. So I kicked, I could kick like 40, 30, 50-yard field goals, no problem at all. So these guys were like, wow, this is awesome. And they were like, well, can you run? I was like, yeah, handball is, all around game with running back and forth on the course. I'm super fast, but they couldn't explain the plays to me at all. Like, it was pretty much impossible. So I was like, how about you go on a special team? You kick the ball and just hit whoever is in front of you. And I was like, okay, you see how simple this is and totally works out for us. So I did play, and it was great, absolutely great. It probably took me about 4 months to learn English, where I didn't really have any problems. I'm still learning after 20 years, but the language is a mystery for me at some point.
Well, you speak numerous languages though too, right?
Well, I speak Serbian is Serbo-Croatian is what we kind of call that while Yugoslavia was together. And then when these guys split, we have a bunch of other languages that came out of the which within each state. So Bosnia has its own language, Croatia has its own language, Macedonia has its own language. So yeah, I'm able to speak all those.
So when did you feel comfortable in the US? Because you did the senior year and then you went to college there, right? College in the US.
So this is what happened. being a 16-year-old or a 17-year-old, 18-year-old in Europe, you're on top of your game. You can do whatever you want. As in my case, I was, professional athlete. I had a ton of friends. I was in newspapers, age of 15. So it was kind of awesome. So I came in this country, and I'm, I like nightlife. I like nightclubs and all that stuff. And I love that ever since I'm a little kid, right? But
Ever since you were a little kid, are you going to nightclubs when you're a little kid? What's going on with that?
13, 14 years old, that's the age when you start going out in Eastern Europe.
You start going to nightclubs at 13, 14 years old?
Absolutely. I'm not even joking. I have 3 daughters right now. My daughter is 11 years old, and I'm terrified thinking about taking her back home, because all her cousins are going to be like, hey, come out. You know what I mean? Let's go to a cafe, drink coffee or something. And so everybody, like I said,
and in Granby, Colorado, there are not a lot of nightclubs.
Absolutely not. They're safe there, and I'm planning on keeping them there as long as I can. But what happened is, like, here, I came, I was in Charlotte, North Carolina, so I'm like 18 years old, and I tried to go, party or do something, and they were like, sorry, you can't come in. I was like, why? I don't have money, or like my clothes is not good enough, or it's like, no, you don't have ID. I was like, I don't need ID. I have $100. I'm good, buddy. Just let me in. He goes like, absolutely not, but, and I was like telling that to my friends back home. I was like, so when they start going out? And I was like, well, when they turn 21. I was like, why? That's too old. Who goes out when you're 21? We're done at that point. Like you're working in a factory. You have like 6 kids. You know what I mean? Like we don't. It's not how this thing was. So I like after senior year, I was like, I want to go home. Like I'm done. I don't want to. This country's awesome, but like I don't think this is gonna work out. But then when I went home, the situation in Serbia even got worse. They were trying to overturn the political party and all that stuff, or that was just about to happen. And I was like, well, I gotta get out of here again. And then my American mom, her name is Carolyn, she found this college in Georgia that was giving scholarship for a handball, and my grades were good enough, and I ended up coming back, and I was a college student, which was another dream of mine. So what happened is that in Serbia we would have only a few American shows, TV shows, and most of them were in color. So one of my favorite shows was Baywatch. And I was like, wow, this country is unbelievable. I mean, like, I want to, I just started watching the show after I spent some time here. And I was like, well, this is going to work out great. I just want to go back. And that's what happened. I came back.
And so was that dubbed into Croatian or Serbian, or not Croatian, but Serbian, or in when you watched it over there, or were you watching it here?
Well, I started watching it there. I just kind of discovered it because, like, I didn't growing up in during the war and embargo and stuff. We literally had like 3 TV channels at home. So gaming, like any kind of console or something that didn't exist. You played outside, and the only thing you were able to play with is soccer ball, or and the neighborhood I kind of grew up in Serbia, we were doing okay, but you would make friends with the guy, with the neighbor across the street who had the soccer ball, because that was like, wow, that guy's got it going on. You know what I mean? So you just kind of played outside, and that was it. Right. And when that's why I really didn't know any movies or anything else that was going on with like MTV or something like that. But then when I came here, there was overload, because like you have like 100 channels and any kind of show you ever imagine, and they kind of stick with me, Baywatch. But so
well, perfect. I mean that is the US. That's what we were exporting was Baywatch.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah.
So you got a scholarship to play handball. How many colleges are playing handball? I mean, I don't remember many.
So that was like I want to say like a 98, 99. There's like a Atlanta Olympics were fairly close after that, and US were really pushing. So everything on East Coast, as far as like a Middle Georgia College, UGA, Georgia Tech, mostly like in Georgia and South Carolina, North Carolina, like UNC Chapel Hill, and then Air Force Academy and Emory College. That's also Georgia, I believe. Those are all the schools that offer the scholarship because they were really trying to push it and grow the sport. And it's a fun game. It's very popular, and I mean in Europe it's very popular. But people liked it. I'm not sure. To go back, I had obviously a car accident, and when that thing kind of happened to me, I kind of lost the interest, and because I wasn't able to walk anymore. So I didn't play that sport anymore.
Right. So you weren't playing handball, which, I mean, as you're saying, I mean, I played it in gym class as a little kid, and I've seen it a few times, but it's a super athletic sport. And there's basically like an arc as well, right? Like a crease where you're not allowed to go into it, but you can jump and you can be in the air and throw. So
you have to jump, and the crease is 18 feet away from the goal line.
And is the goal like a field hockey goal? Is it that big, or
it's bigger?
It's bigger.
It's a lot bigger. But then, like, if you get enough speed, you can jump the 18 feet, no problem at all. But you expect the goalie to punch you, kick you, stick his finger in your eye. So be careful.
Right. So it's a combination of like a long jump, which an 18-foot long jump is a good long jump. It's not, you're not breaking any world records or anything like that. But as you're doing it, trying to avoid somebody else, nobody's giving you a clear runway to jump off the line either.
Yeah, during that break, you would, if you were breaking from your defense, one guy would run up and you would pass him the ball, and then he would be like at full speed and try to jump as close as he could to the goal, kind of distract the goalie and try to sneak the ball in. But like I said, it's a full contact game. Like your jersey will be ripped. You will have like bruise marks all over your abdominal. Usually, if you flip your top lip, you will have marks of your teeth lined up. So it's a brutal sport. Like honestly, like but the people that play, they're true athletes. I always had so much respect. Soccer and like basketball and they are absolutely great sports, but they're different skill required. In soccer, you just kind of do everything with your feet, and you gotta be absolutely fast. In basketball, you have to be tall. But this thing is kind of combination of both.
Of a lot of things. And so you said you had a car accident and ended up, in a wheelchair as a result of it.
Yeah.
Your parents were still back in Serbia though, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So
you were alone effectively.
Yeah. So I want to finish this handball thing, but like we won an SEC championship.
Oh, you did? Okay, I didn't know you won the SEC championship.
Yeah, we won SEC championship, and we were going into U.S. Nationals, and it was like a 16 days till U.S. Nationals, and that's when my accident happened. And all my teammates and the guys that I went to school with, it was like, what do we do now? I was like, I don't know. Because I was usually the guy that would pass the ball and I would shoot. But like, I was like, you guys are going to have to figure this on your own, man. I'm a little busy right now. So what happened with I was coming back from training in Atlanta, and I was just driving by myself. I had a little Jetta that had this seatbelt thing that was wrapped around the door. So me being young and stupid and invincible, I cut that little seatbelt off. So I never really had the seatbelt in my car. So then I took the little piece of the seatbelt that would actually plug in and stop your car from beeping. I cut that, I shaved that kind of off and just stuck it in the little seatbelt, basically that seatbelt buckle. So the car was like completely seatbeltless. So, and I drove the car like that probably, I don't know, maybe 6 months. And what happened, I was driving back, it was kind of late, and I fell asleep. And there was 2 roads that were under construction. And so what happened in Georgia, I was coming back from, my school was in Macon, Georgia, outside of Macon, Georgia, and the practice was in Atlanta. This is like back in the country, and there's absolutely no lights there. So what happens, like you come to the stop sign and you flick the lights off, and if you don't see anybody coming in opposite direction or crossing the road, you will just speed through it instead of stopping at the stop sign. And
So you've cut your seatbelts out. You're running stop signs. Okay, this sounds like a good start here.
yeah, well, yeah, and that's what I believe what happened. I flicked the lights off, but the road was under construction. The car hit the lip on the road that was about 6 inches
Oh, like
tall.
the curb kind of thing on the
Yeah,
road.
curb, probably. And the front wheels fell off the car, and I flew through the windshield, and the car collapsed on top of me, and then dragged me, I don't know how many feet, but a long way, maybe 30, 40 feet. And then cars kept going and ended up in a ditch about 200 feet away. So I was laying in a 2-lane road by myself, kind of in the middle, and some guy thought I was a dead deer. So he pulled over, like looking for a dinner, or and then he saw it was a human. And then maybe 30 seconds later, he waved down the 18-wheeler truck hauling cotton out of the fields. This guy said, like, if this guy didn't wave, and he'd probably run me over. I was like, oh wow. So, and after all this, I was in rehab, and at that time, I sustained brain injury. I had broken T9, my back, and I mean, I was a mess. And this guy actually came and saw me in the hospital. I don't remember that. I was just when I wanted to kind of thank him to saving my life after what I did, but never kind of worked out. Maybe one day.
That guy came to the hospital, the guy who found you in the middle of the road?
Yeah, who stopped that truck. He actually came and he wanted to make sure that was okay. I guess he came like a few days later, but like I was on so many medication, and like I had like a severe concussion, probably not brain injury, but like a severe concussion. I had like a 85 or 82 stitches in the back of my head. And because when the paramedics found me, they thought I was fine, but I just had like a severe head injury. But I'm not sure what happened. I don't remember the accident. The whole deal with
me. You had a whole lot of stuff going on. So yeah, it's hard to.
Yeah. The lights were off anyway, so you couldn't be able to see anything anyway.
Who told your parents? I mean, you're there. This guy finds you in the middle of the road. He prevents the truck from running you over. They bring you to the hospital, not these guys, but the ambulance brings you to the hospital. Your parents are what, 6,000 miles away, 8,000 miles away, something like that?
Well, that's kind of a horror story, because and me being a parent, that's why I'm saying this is a horror story. So what happened is that hospital contacted the college contacted my American family that they were by my side at that time, and they continue to be our, greatest friends. And so they called my parents, but my parents don't speak English at all. They speak a little bit of German and Russian. So communication, and to make it even worse, Serbia has a holiday. It's called Serbian New Year, and I crashed on Friday the 13th. That's the Serbian New Year. So my parents were at this huge party, and they couldn't understand what's going on. They just, assumed something's horrible happened. So they came home and they found one of my neighbors. They kind of spoke English. So they were constantly in communication with the doctors here and my American family here. And my American family telling them what's happening, but they are not in Georgia either, by my side, right? So the doctors are telling my neighbor who barely speaks English, and my neighbor is transferring to my parents. So at one point, my neighbor told my parents, like, hey, he's dead, man. Like, I can't listen to this anymore. You know what I mean? He's done. You know what I mean? So then they called half an hour later. They were like, well, he's not that dead. He's kind of dead. You know what I mean? But like, he's kind of alive. We're not sure. So I always felt so guilty putting my parents through this whole deal that, it was 100% my fault. But so when this thing happened, they figured out, they kind of got me stable. They said like, hey, he's, sustained severe injuries. They found a better translator. So
what are your parents thinking? I mean, that your neighbor tells your parents that you're dead. So for a period of time, they think you're dead. Then they get a better translator and they tell them that you're actually alive. Paralyzed. You're just
mostly dead.
This is Princess Bride, right? This is
pretty much. Great movie, by the way. I can't even put them in their shoes. Like I said, I have kids now, and my kids are super active, and it's crazy. But like what went through their head at the moment, my mom really kind of refused to talk about those few days. And but I don't know anything of what was going on at that moment. I was completely out. Like I was in coma, and that was it. So what happened is that
and you were in a coma for almost a month, right?
In and out, it was kind of bad. Maybe a little bit less, but it wasn't like I wasn't there. Only thing that I remember from that whole time is that I'm in Macon, Georgia, laying on my back, and at one point, nurse was telling me like, "Hey, your parents are here," and I'm assuming my American family. And my mom walked in the room, and I was like, "Oh boy, I'm dead." You know what I mean? Like, and she's like, started talking to me, and I'm like, "No, I'm not dead, man. I'm pretty sure alive." Like it wasn't like you were not there, like with morphine and everything. They were because I also skinned my whole back from I don't know how,
the windshield.
The windshield, but then like my legs were 100%. Like I didn't have a single scratch on my legs. It was just like my back, and the left arm. Left arm was humerus was completely broken off, and the right shoulder was also dislocated. So when they finally got me going, I was in a power chair because I really couldn't do anything. But like when I saw my mom, like, and I kind of got to understanding that this is not, the afterlife. I was like, oh boy, I screwed up, huh? And she's like, yeah, it'd be all right. I mean, it's not nothing.
I said something similar to my mother that night after my accident. I was like, I really did it this time, didn't I?
Yeah.
Said, we'll deal with that later. No, don't worry.
So you understand.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like that was actually Serbian situation at that point, or Yugoslavian, was like US was actually bombing. So there was no in and out at all. How they got here, I always had to thank my American family, because these guys, they had a little bit of influence. So they were able to get them on the emergency visas, and there was not even an embassy in Belgrade, US embassy. So they actually had somebody from Hungary meet them at the border and vouch for them to walk across the bridge to get in Hungary to be able to fly here. So wow. Till this day, how they got here, it was a total mystery. And especially like not speaking English and under that much pressure and that much stress, coming to the United States, knowing that, your firstborn probably not gonna make it, but let's see how it goes. Because they are like both of my lungs were collapsed, and like there was some kidney issues. So they were like, the doctors were just trying to put me together the best they could. And that's why the current update was so essential for them. They were not sure what's going to happen to me, but somehow I pulled out of it.
Wow. And so, but they didn't stay, did they? Did your parents end up going back to Serbia, or did they stay for a while, or what did they do?
So my, that was kind of interesting, because my American mom was by my side nonstop, and my real mom was there nonstop. And my mom doesn't speak one word of English. How did they communicate it, and how did they, what they did, what this first 30 days, I'm not sure. But besides that I'm in a horrible situation, they became really good friends. Which
That mom language, where they were both talking about you.
Absolutely, yeah. Mom language. So they this thing kind of brought the fact that I was broken, it was horrible, but brought kind of these two families together. And what happened is like when my dad after the Bosnia, he didn't really do anything with the sports anymore. He was the situation in Serbia was horrible. He was just trying to feed the family and provide for us. So he was a businessman at next 6-7 years, and doing business in Serbia during the war, it's very different than any other countries. Racketeering, greasing palms, anything that's illegal, you would have to do for a legal business. So he was just trying to do best as he can. But he was, I think when this thing happened to me, he saw opportunity. Then he was really tired of living in Serbia. So he kind of was talking to me. He's like, what do you think if we, move here for a year and see how it works out? And I was like, well, I definitely gonna need help, because I didn't know what's going to happen with me or how I'm going to turn out. I mean, one day you are walking, you top of the world, doing whatever you want. Next day you're dead in a hospital bed, and they're all telling you you're never going to walk again. Just as far as mental, it's absolutely devastating. And to make it even worse, at the time I didn't really have papers. I had a college visa, and the U.S. Olympic team was helping me trying to get a green card in the United States to be able to compete for US. But what happened is, like, when this thing happened to me, these guys are like, well, we don't really need you anymore. And I'm like, okay, well, what I do now is, like, I don't know, you go home. And I was like, well, I can't go home. We don't have wheelchair people at home. Like, I never, honestly, until I was like 18 years old, I never saw a person, or I saw like one guy that was in the wheelchair in the whole country. I don't even know what until that point, I didn't know what they did to people in wheelchairs. I think they were like stuck them all in under the carpet or some kind of closet or something, or I don't know, shoot them. I have no, it was so devastating for me to think about that now, and what I become and how hard life must be for these guys in past.
Do people assume that you were in the war when you tell them that you're Serbian, Bosnian? Do they assume that you were in the war, that's how you ended up in a wheelchair?
Yep, all the time. But I don't know, or I have people that just come to me and says, like, I don't know, maybe because of my build or my haircuts, that is like, thank you for your service, sir. I was like, oh no, oh no, these guys are real, true people. Yeah, I'm just here on a visa. It's okay. But I always thank all my friends. They got injured in overseas and stuff, and they served in the army. I mean, they're all true heroes. For rest of us, we always need to have our place and thank them for what they sacrificed for all of us, basically.
For sure. So your parents moved to North Carolina then while you were in the hospital? Is that how this ended up working out? So they moved next door to your To like to your American family?
No, really, they moved in their house, man.
Okay, so not next door, actually in the house. Okay.
My mom is a great cook, and
Ah,
my real mom. I have a real mom and my American mom. My American mom is also a good cook, but she's really busy too. Uh, and then my American dad loved my American mom, my real mom cooking, right? So he was like, well, why don't you guys just, while he's in, first year in college, let's see how this goes. Why don't you just guys move in, with us? And, plus like my American family, they're never at home. They're, always busy traveling and stuff like that. So it worked out absolutely awesome. They had a nice house with a pool. I mean, in Serbia, you can only dream of that, And so with my parents, what happened, like usually your rehab is several months, 2 3 months. I was in rehab for like 6 7 months. It was that bad. They just couldn't, like, I was so weak. I went from, you know 200 something pound bench press, which is not much but just a regular athlete, to laying literally 30 days later in the rehab gym in Shepherd Center in Atlanta, trying to lift the wooden rod. It's like a tiny little wooden rod off my chest. And they're like, well, and all my teammates, all my friends are there. Is like, what happened to you? I was like, I don't know, but this thing is like destroying me. So it was a long process. And like I think my parents decided to stay because they saw me how struggling I was through the rehab, and they were not really sure how I'm gonna turn out because I had a lot of mental stuff going on. I really didn't see life and how this could be positive in any way. I was like, I just kind of want to die, man. Just I'm done, And that's a tough deal to see somebody that's 18, 19 years old
what
go
flipped that switch for you then? I mean, if you're there and you want to die, what flipped the switch?
Well, be honest with you, it was work of one therapist, and her name is Joy Burns, and this lady, yeah, she's awesome. And this lady would, I guess she's either saw potential in me or I don't know, but she kind of like always hang out after the therapy, or kind of like just talk to me a little bit while I was in the Shepherd Center, and try to tell me this is gonna be okay. And I was always like, wow, man, this lady's walking, she's attractive. Why would she ever talk to me? And I'm like, just like, hey, lady, leave me alone. Let me just be. So she's kind of like telling me like, hey, different stories. Like you should try this. You should, try basketball. We can go outside for a walk. And I mean, she's extremely positive, outgoing. There was no, off topic, whatever you want to talk to you and talk to me. And, I was always like, hey, like you kind of like, asking me so many questions. I don't really want to talk to you, like I'm just kind of pushing it away. And but she was adamant about it. She would like joke around, everything like super positive. And then one day, like, I was like, you don't even know like what I told her, like, you don't even know like what it means to be in a wheelchair. So she's like, you crazy, you know what I mean? Like, leave me alone, like it's just work here for a paycheck, and she's like, no, I have a life outside this hospital, I have a husband that's in a wheelchair. I was like, whoa, why would you have a husband? You're gorgeous, man. You know what I mean? Like, how? I don't understand how this works, man. Like, it's like, is something wrong with you? And it's just like, no, like, it's like, why would something be wrong with me? So we got back and forth. I'm just trying to test the water and kind of maybe even make her mad, just to leave me alone. And she was like, well, tomorrow I'm going to bring this album with the pictures. I'm like, all right, fine, bring it. So she brought this album, right? And inside this album is this a gentleman in a wheelchair, and they're like NASCAR race, a sailing, a fishing, the beach, skiing, anything you ever imagine. This wheelchair guy's like, all over the place with her. I'm like, wow. I'm like, I'm looking, like, I mean, it's a good looking dude, but like, nothing crazy, you know what I mean? I'm like, wow. So she's like, I'm gonna get my husband to come and talk to you tomorrow. I was like, well, I mean, if you want to, that's no problem at all. So
You're not going anywhere. You're like, I'm lying in bed here. You can find me.
I'm just like finding excuses not to, see anybody. So next day, for sure, this guy shows up in the hospital, right? And he straight up rolled in my room. I mean, we could tell he's an athlete, like broad shoulders, good looking dude. And he goes like, hey, my name is, Bert. And he extend his arm to, for us to shake hands. And I noticed like his fingers are all like bunched up. And I'm like, how you doing? He's like, not bad. I was like, what's wrong with your hand? And he goes like, well, I'm a quad. And I'm looking like,
hold on, I've got to back up just for a second. He extended his hand. You didn't pull it in and kiss him.
No. I learned at that point, no more kissing Americans, man. So no. So he literally extended his arm, and I shook his hand, and I'm like, what's going on here? And he's like, yeah, I'm a quad. And I'm looking at him like, whoa, man. Like, wait a minute. This guy is a quad, and his arms don't work. And he's able to have this beautiful lady and, be, after we talked, he's a gold medalist in Paralympic Games. And, to have a house and to have a job and, to travel all over the world and to do everything that I think was normal, I was like, wow, well, if this guy can do it, I can do it too. So he left. Joey saw me like in the cafeteria or something. I was like, what's going on? I was like, hey, can I try that basketball thing or anything? And she's like, what's wrong with you? I was like, nothing. Like, I just met, Bert. And from that moment, honestly, these guys kind of gave me a new light on life. I really didn't think that that's gonna be possible or that anybody will ever actually get me going. Yeah, my family and my American family and all my friends, made that also, possible. But that was that little push that I guess I needed.
Oh, hold on. There can be a life after this whole thing. Was your wife still with you? Was she your girlfriend at the time? No, absolutely. This is afterwards.
That's afterwards, yeah. So when I talked to Joyce, like, yeah, man, Bert, we just met. I don't remember anymore when they met, but I was like, well, so what I do? She's like, you go back to college, you do whatever you were doing before. You like nightclubs, fine. You go party in nightclubs. You like bar fights, fine. You go fight in the bar. You'll be disadvantaged right now, but hey, you're gonna learn. You know what I mean? So that's exactly what I did. I went straight back to school. I started.
Same school?
No. So what happened is the campus that I was on, it was very old and inaccessible. And it would create a total nightmare. So I transferred to UNC Charlotte in North Carolina. So I went from, I don't know, it was like too many good walking memories in that school that I was at. So I just kind of need that. I was like, if I'm going to start new, I'm going to, start everything from scratch. So I, moved to new school. And I remember that first, so before, for like, that's how Charlotte was, UNC Charlotte. If you were a freshman or you just got accepted at school, you were able to get there like a week prior. So you learn the buildings and orientation type of deal. And all my friends from Georgia were there during my orientation. So we were just partying, having a great time. Nothing really changed. But then I remember the first day of school, they all left. And I'm like, oh boy, this is going to be tough. I don't know anybody here, you know what I mean? So it didn't take me long. I mean, within maybe, I don't know, a couple of weeks, I was back to my normal self, meeting girls, partying, doing whatever. I was, playing basketball. Anything that anybody offered me as far as physical activity, I jumped on it. Didn't matter that I wasn't doing that before, but that was the one thing that Joe encouraged. And she gave me definitely some contacts in North Carolina. And she was like, you got to do everything. You're never going to know what you're going to like for sure.
How did skiing come about? So that happened. Skiing, you started 9 months after you went to Breck, 9 months after, but you said you were in the hospital for 6 months. So you went to Breck 3 months after you left the hospital. Is that right? If my math is right?
I had to get special permission from, I believe at the time was Dr. Apple in Shepherd Center, because they knew I was an athlete before. And I went home, and I remember my American parents' house is on a hill, like a big hill. So when we got home, they retrofitted the house. It was tough, just like for anybody else they came. But that hill, it's probably, I want to say like maybe 100 yards. No, maybe 50 yards. It's just a long driveway.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember maybe second day that I was at home, I was like, I gotta build myself up. I can't just, I'm not able to drive yet, So first thing I did, I rolled down the hill, right? And then I tried to go back up, and I made it about 4 feet, and that was it. So, and but make the story crazier, nobody was at home. So I can't get back in.
Oh, so you have no choice.
Yeah. So I'm sitting there. I tried a few times. There's no way. I'm so weak. It's not even funny. And Steve, my American dad, comes back home. I don't know what he was doing. He's like, what are you doing here? But I was trying to exercise, but I couldn't make it. I'm in my chair, and I'm at bottom of this hill, and my American dad's driving this big truck. He looks at me. He's like, can you hold on the bumper? I was like, yeah, sure. So I just held on the bumper. He brought me up. I was like, yeah, don't do that. We're doing at least when somebody's at home. I was like, yeah, no problem. And that's what I did. Every day I would push myself down that hill and try to do a little more and a little more, a little more. And after a while, I built myself up. That first day of school, I was immediately in a gym. I just did everything possible to rebuild what was broken. And I guess these guys in my first, the checkup in Shepherd, they saw me as a potential to be an athlete again, and they were like, well, yeah, we're gonna sign this off, just take it easy, which I totally didn't, but worked out great.
So they were the ones who set it up for you to go to Breckenridge, to go to Ski Spectacular, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah.
Big learn to ski program. There often were racers still there, as well.
Yeah, well, that I went and I saw other people skiing, and it took me about 3 days to be able to ski by myself. But no, I mean, you understand that would be like the 30-second go and then dip over, and then you will have like 3 cute volunteers helping you.
Sure. Yeah, no, I remember all too well. Took me a little bit longer to be able to ski by myself.
Yeah, but I don't know, like I saw skiing very similar to able-body skiing. And of course, they didn't take me anything steep, so I kind of just, learned how to slide. And then I came back to North Carolina at the time, and there was a program at Beach Mountain, North Carolina, which is a very small hill outside of Boone. And I spoke with those guys, and I was like, hey, can you help me ski? They were like, yeah, we have a program. You just you have to show up, basically. But that mountain is like the East Coast skiing, super icy, busy, nightmare, absolute nightmare. So I started going there on a regular basis.
And did you know, well, like when you went to Breckenridge, you knew that skiing was it, that was what you wanted to do?
Absolutely. So since I got in this wheelchair, I was always looking for ways of getting out of the wheelchair. And at first, I was a huge believer in stem cells and the standing, and we tried all kinds of different medications and long leg braces, walking in the pool like 6-7 hours. I mean, I've done it all. But then everything else that I was doing, or I don't know, maybe I'm wrong about this, but like when people see me in a wheelchair, even to this day, they kind of like look down on you, right? And that was a big problem. Like the Serbian culture, we're fairly, everybody's tall, and you show your dominance by, you know, having broad shoulders and speaking with somebody eye to eye or looking down on them, right? Well, when this thing happened to me, I'm looking up the whole time on the whole world. And I was like, well, how I, you know, present myself that I don't have to prove everything that I want to talk about it, you know what I mean? But then when I got in this monoski, and this is where I was like, wow, this is something crazy, man. I was like finally able to do something that people look up to me. They were actually like in the skiing on competitor level, or just skiing with your friends, or just trying to ski. I was just blown away how people would come to you and be like, wow, that's cool, man. And I was like, wow, I found my thing. So if I could, I would I just started dating Sarah, that's my wife. And I was like, man, if I could live in this, I would, you know, spend time nonstop in my monoski, because honestly, it was super cool. And till this day, I try to spend as much time as I can, racing or not. But
Right. And then you moved out to Colorado, and we're going to have to get into Beijing. So you've had 3 Paralympic Games, 4 World Championship Games. You kind of seemed like you'd taken some time off after Pyeongchang, right? Were you done, or were you just spending a little bit more time with the family?
I was spending kind of both. I don't know, something happened in Pyeongchang, kind of like as far as racing, I kind of lost that fire.
The desire.
And I am not sure how that came about, but I wasn't myself anymore. Like I didn't enjoy what I was doing. I don't know, maybe the type of environment that I was, and then 3 kids at home, running a business. They are growing up, they kind of, I wasn't, to put this in perspective, my middle daughter, Maya, she's born on May 8th. And I was there when she was born, and then March 8th. Every other birthday until 5 years old, I was never present, because I'm always racing, World Cup, World Champs, always something's happening. So I kind of like got lost in the moment. I was like, what do I do? Like she deserves my attention just like any other kid. So that's where I kind of like slowed down and took a year off. But I think it was good because I got to free ski a lot, kind of fell in love with racing again. And so far so good. Let's see what happens in Beijing.
So what brought you back then? You took the time off. Did you take the time off with the thought that you're going to come back to Beijing? Or did you kind of take the time off and go, I'm not really sure where I'm going?
Probably option number B, not sure where I was going. I just kind of like took a time off, as was wondering what's going to happen. But then I guess with this Corona deal and everything that was happening, I had a little time to think about it. And then last year I was like, well, let me just try it. Maybe I still have maybe I still like it. And slalom I was always good at it, but something that I didn't really enjoy it. Speed and Super G was kind of how I made my name, and one of those events that I absolutely love. So next thing you know, I'm good in slalom. I changed the rig. I changed the way of skiing. I, raced my first competition. I mean, I was at my first competition, my first race, and next thing you know, I'm like on a podium. I'm like, wow, this didn't.
This is last year?
That was last year, yeah.
So you remade the team then?
remade the team off of like a month of racing, back in the groove, and I kind of at that point was like, I'm gonna need to go, in the gym a little bit, get a little even stronger, and that worked out. And we raced all the way through the April. Back on the team, we were planning on skiing this summer, but like I said, I did first camp in Mount Hood, and after that, the elbow thing started. So I didn't really have a chance to prepare myself the way I would really like this summer. But I mean, we have like 90 days till the games, 100 days, so it should be. I think there's time. So.
And what are you expecting? Like, what's the year going to look like right now? You had your first NORAMs last week. Where do you go from here? How does this work?
So I am currently training until the 9th, and then we fly to Switzerland for some World Cups. That's another event that we're gonna kind of test, assess, to see where I need to be.
And just skiing technical events, slalom and giant slalom now?
Yes, just slalom and giant slalom. And then we are coming home, and then going back. Last year, our World Championships were canceled because of COVID. So we're gonna go to Norway for a huge block racing World Championships, and then we're gonna come home, train, do some local races, Park City, Winter Park, and then everything's geared towards the Beijing. I hope they're gonna allow us to go there a week prior to the games, get over with jet lag, and just try to get yourself ready. And then when games start, I'm just gonna train, keep a low profile until I get to go and race. Hopefully bring home a medal. I'm not greedy. I just want a medal. If that's a goal, then let it be. But in my case, 4 times a charm. So
Fourth time is a charm.
I'm sure gonna try chasing it.
And we saw 2 of your daughters come in. You said you have 3 daughters. How old are they?
So the youngest one, her name is Adeline. She's 4. We have Maya. She's 8, and then we have a Layla. She's 11. Layla and Maya are also great athletes. Layla runs track, soccer, modern dance, and she also ski race, which is kind of scary because now we train in Winter Park on several different occasions. Her cancel. My practice runs a little bit longer than hers, and she will come over to my courses and be like, "Hey, Dad, can I jump in?" And I'm like, "Whoa, boy, am I old."
Now, are you prouder of them? Are they prouder of you? How does that work?
We have bets on who gets first podiums and what medals are. So they I'm more proud of them.
But you got the first podium this year, didn't you?
Yeah, I got a first podium, and the bet was they're gonna have to carry me on their shoulders, but I didn't think this through. I think they're strong enough yet. I didn't look at their schedule, and we were just kind of joking around, but yeah, I got the first one. They have a races, I believe, end of the December. So we will see how that goes. Layla did excellent last year, but big problem with them racing. So obviously I don't use the ski boots, and I ski in a mono ski, and this year Layla outgrew her boots, and she was like, "I need a new one." And I was like, "Well, I can help you with skis, but I don't know anything about boots. We're gonna have to get some help." So I just learned about flex and everything else that is involved with able body skiing. But with the tuning her skis and getting her ready, no problem. But boots are new thing for me. Like I said, life is full of surprises, so keep learning.
So you said they're prouder of you, but do they bring bragging rights to this whole thing? Are they, if they feel like they're better than you, are they going to give you a hard time?
Absolutely. We are one of those families that any topic is on the table, and you better have a thick skin, because nothing's left untouched. So it's a fun group, honestly. I really wanted a son, and that's just that Eastern European mentality. But yeah, these girls will just do. They're tough little cookies, no problem at all. They fish, they hunt, they kayak, they play on the lake nonstop. I mean, we don't even have gaming consoles in our house, so they just do everything that I do. So it's absolutely awesome.
They're outside. Are they looking? Is there somebody with a soccer ball across the street?
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. But problem here, there is every kid has like 6 soccer balls, and the one with the sparkles is usually a ticket. You know what I mean?
That's probably yours, right? The one with the sparkles.
Yeah. When they play soccer, sometimes like I understand the game, and I love professional soccer, but I usually take a putter or a 3 golf club, and we will pass the ball back and forth. I just use a use a golf stick, which it works, man. And I mean, life is not perfect, but it works.
So you're skiing. You have 3 daughters. You have a business as well. How do you juggle all of it? How do you make all of this work?
You gotta have a really good wife. That's the ticket. You see what I'm saying? So we're very organized. Sarah handles a lot of stuff. Problem now, when I mean, not a problem. It's just that that's how our family works. When I'm racing, I'm gone a lot, and then it's just one of those sacrifices you have to do. The fact that I'm in a wheelchair, I'm also a professional athlete, and the Sarah totally understands that, and she helps tremendously with this whole deal. Just the regular dynamics is like when the kids come home, you have to like drive them back and forth. So we're back and forth to their activities, which is not ideal. And then with the business and employees and all that stuff, I definitely have a full plate. But I've always been busy. I've always been hungry for success, and I have no problem juggling all this. How long this is gonna go like that, let's see. But like I said, I definitely gonna go in Beijing full force, and after that we will see how it goes.
So you're not saying this is your last games or you might have a world championships after this or something too.
I'm not saying, but Sarah's saying it differently, so we will have to do some negotiations.
Well, we didn't have her on, so she doesn't get her say.
I believe I'm watching kids, or they're watching themselves, as Sarah is with her friends and some wine tasting things. So
that sounds like a good idea. It sounds like a fair trade.
In the morning, I will be practicing, and she will be watching kids. So usually that's how it works.
That's awesome. Well, it's good. And we wish you a lot of luck as you approach both a world championships this year in January, and then the Paralympics in Beijing in February. In January, you get to ski at Hafjell, where I skied back in 1994. Yeah, in Lillehammer. So one of my favorite places. I have fond memories of that place. So good luck at both places. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope the elbow and the shoulder holds up, and we look forward to watching you in March.
Thank you very much. And thank you to all your supporters. Thank you, Chris.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And thank you all of you for watching. If you did not get a chance to see the whole thing, as usual, you can go to the One Revolution page It will be archived on the One Revolution page. We will also edit this into a traditional podcast. It'll be in all the places that you usually find it, whether YouTube, if you want to watch it, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, all those places. So please, the greatest gift you can give us is to tell your friends that you enjoyed this and that they should tune in, and then also to please follow and like us. So we'll see you next time. And yes, best of luck. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, guys.